I think we're ready to go.
We are good to go.
All right. Well, welcome. Officially. We just had all this drama. For those that are just getting on now, we've had a whole bunch of drama trying to get our podcast software working, but I feel like now we've hopefully got it to a point where people can listen to us.
Not to mention we've been trying to line this up for months and months and months now.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
Arlene, Aussie Girl Angerfist. That's the full title, right?
Yeah. I promote being that Aussie.
Well, welcome to the Heat Locker. So the way it works here, we just have a chat and go from there.
Yep.
And
We've been talking for the last hour anyway.
Yeah, we've been chatting already, and obviously, you know, every day that we train together, you're training here at Sydney West with me and doing a bunch of jiu-jitsu and
getting better,
working on that stuff, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
But you're a professional mixed martial artist.
Yeah, MMA fighter, boxer.
That's your day job.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, amongst other things. But I mean, for the most part, I'm a professional athlete. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of start with, I feel like my gains are a little bit high. I'm just going to turn myself down a bit there. I feel like I want to start from the beginning, which is, I mean, we could go right back. First of all, what's your background? Because people, I think, are always very confused. People like to try and work out.
My nationality? Yeah, well, believe it or not, I'm Filipino. Clearly not the size of a Filipino. I think that's what confuses most people.
Right.
I think a lot of people confuse me for being an Islander, Maori, especially if I'm in my fight braids and that, and because I am a bigger build, and probably because I train with like a lot of the guys around here, like Tyson, hang around a lot of the Samoans and stuff. So I think that's why I get that.
Yeah, I think I probably thought when I first had come across you, I would have put you somewhere in the Pacific Islands. Somewhere.
Yeah, no, Filipino. So my mum's Filipino, my dad was Australian.
Okay.
So half Filipino with freckles.
And where were you born? Were you born around Penrith?
No. So I was born in Manly, but we moved to Queensland when I was a year old. My sister was born, and so I'm a Queenslander. I'm not. No, technically I'm not really. I go for New South Wales because I was born here. So I'm one of those people that goes for New South Wales.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Yeah, but I grew up in Queensland, moved down to Port Macquarie when I was 15, and I've been in Sydney, in Penrith for the last almost 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you started your athletic career. Did you do other sports before you started to move into combat sports?
Through high school, I wasn't I did athletics, netball. I was heaps sporty. But yeah, I mean, I was a mum at a young age, so that kind of So
so you got two lovely children?
I do have two lovely children.
Yes.
One's an adult now, which makes me feel really old. But it's a nice she's like having a best friend now, so it's a nice age. But I do miss them being little. But so I was 18 when I had Kayla. So, I was a mum for years, sort of thing. So it wasn't until I was 26. Had a massive turn of events in life. Long story short, just sort of made me sit back and look at what I'd done with my life. And apart from being a mother, which is still the best thing that I've achieved, my greatest accomplishments, it just made me look at everything that I'd done and, what I wished I should have done. And, becoming an athlete was one of them, representing Australia, and, started fighting.
So at 26, you just decided, I'm going to go and do boxing? Is that where it started?
Yeah,
or
pretty much.
You done some other stuff? Or?
Am I working?
Yep, you're still working.
Okay. 26 was when I was driving along and heard that women's boxing was introduced to the London Olympics. And then, that was just... Representing Australia was something I always wanted to do growing up as a kid. Watching the Olympics. Is that better?
Go.
Oh, I can't hear me. Oh, yeah, I can. Watching the Olympics and, just representing my country. So that sort of planted the seed. I was always a bit of a tomboy. And I thought, I can be a fighter. Never stepped in a boxing ring, never been into a gym before. And I was just like, I can do that. And then the next week, I walked into my first gym. And
that was in Queensland or Port Macquarie?
Port Macquarie.
Right.
Yeah, so I started training at Allegiance Combat and Fitness Centre. Trained for my first boxing fight. And
were they known for amateur boxing? Was that their
They were more of a Muay Thai gym.
Okay.
So, funny enough, though, because there's not too many gyms up that way. So I walked into that gym. I can't remember. I think it was a Monday morning. That's right. No, it wasn't. It was a Saturday morning. I remember that now. Because the Friday night, I'd actually been out with a few friends and I was actually really hungover. So my very
big career change, and you thought the way I'll prepare for it is a big night.
So I was hungover for my very first session, but I felt like I had to prove something because I was like, oh, this coach is going to be watching me. And I almost vomited. It was horrible. And then, I've never been hungover for a training session again.
Very smart. Very clever. Do you think that the training kind of molded you to do less of going out and more
100%.
focusing on athletics?
Yeah. So when I said like I had a complete life, change sort of thing, the person that I was before I was an athlete and compared to who I am now, completely different person. But I don't think, I don't even think I've had any alcohol this year. Might have had 1 or 2 red wines, but I'm pretty sure I can't even remember the last time. Actually, I do. February last year, I had a girls' night out with Samara and T. We went up to Terrigal, and that was the last time I've been drunk. So that was February last year, so it's been 12 months since I was actually drunk.
Yeah,
so
I think moderation's the key with it, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's just, for me, I've got no interest in spending my weekends and my time off of training being hungover, and then before you know it, Monday starts again. I'd much rather spend the time that I've got doing things.
And I think the week becomes a battle. Like the guys that do that each weekend, Monday, Tuesday is just either they don't train or it's really tough going, and then by Wednesday they're kind of getting in the groove, and then by Friday they're going out again, and it's just
the
like
cycle.
This constant.
Exactly. And that's what I say to a lot of the young people that I mentor, and youth is something that you need to appreciate, because once it's gone, I'm 38 next month, so if I was
36, we're still not too old.
I know I'll be fighting for years to go yet, but if I was doing this when I was 18 instead of, I was a mum, like I said, at a young age, and I wouldn't change anything, but God, if I could turn back time and was an athlete and just spend all these years being the person that I am now, by the time I got to this age, I'd already be a world champion sort of thing. So, there's plenty of years to go, go out and party and drink and socialise with your friends. And that's what I'll do in years to come in our retirement
when we're
years.
Old, we'll just become alcoholics.
Every weekend we'll be out.
We've tried to keep the cap on the bottle all these years, and then we'll just become complete.
I don't think that'll work with me now. But I've had a good time. Like I said, my early years, my 20s, we used to go out and drink and this and that. So I've got no interest in doing anything like that. I love being an athlete. I love being the person that I am now. That's dedicated and being a role model and showing people that you can strive for more. My life was going one way. And at 26, decided that wasn't what I wanted to do anymore, and started following dreams, pursuing goals. And, my path's changed over the years. I started with boxing to represent Australia at the Olympics. The next one I turned pro, won 2 world titles, and now I'm on the MMA journey.
So we skipped a lot there. So we went from our first... I want people at home to kind of learn more about you. So, and I want to learn more about you too. So... You had that first session, you decided, how long did it take before you went, I actually want to probably have a fight? Or had you already decided you wanted to have a fight before you went in there?
Yeah, okay. So I had been training for about 4 months and got matched for a boxing fight. So I was super excited. And about a week out from that fight, my coach, the head coach, came up to me because I was working with other teammates doing pad work and, in the classes and stuff. But the coach came over and he's like, how come I haven't seen you working on any of your kicks? And I was like... So my coach back at that time too, if you were to you needed to sort of earn your right to work with him sort of thing. So you work in the classes and that. So years later, once I'd obviously worked with the gym and everything, that's when I started doing one-on-one sessions with him. But back to my first fight, he said, how come you haven't been working on your kicks? And I'm like, because I got a boxing fight next week. And he's like, no, it's a Muay Thai fight.
Oh, right. He failed to mention that to you?
Yeah. Okay. And I was like, no, I've got a boxing fight. I thought he was joking, but he was serious. I freaked out. So,
great.
And Muay Thai, even now, I was at a show on the weekend and T fought last weekend too. It's a horrible sport, the clinching and I can't. That's not my style. So if any of my future opponents are watching me, fight me in Muay Thai. And
it just beats your body up.
It does. The clashing and there's not. It's not. Oh,
even
obviously
amateurs,
it's technical.
Even at a lower level. Did you still kick each other in the shins? Your feet get busted up.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It's not. It's a So I went into the fight. and that sort of, tested the type of fighter I wanted to be, because obviously I could have pulled out, but I still fought. And to this date, like 70 fights later, I've never pulled out of a fight, injured or whatever. So it sort of set the standard of fighter I wanted to be. I was never going to back out and pull out. So, I went into the fight, had the first round. It was overwhelming. Came back to my corner. I was like, I don't want to go back out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I almost felt like I wanted to start crying. Yeah. And then they obviously told me to calm down. I went back out there. Anyway, I lost the fight by split decision.
Okay.
So, I mean, the fact that I hadn't even been training for like Muay Thai and that I only lost by split decision. So that, again, set the standard. Like from there, I was just like, I just want to get back in there. Anyway, I think it was 2 months later, I finally got matched for a boxing fight. And
was that because from my understanding with boxing, amateur boxing, there's kind of two schools of amateur boxing. There's the
ABA.
There's the ABA, and then there's the ABL.
Yeah.
What did they have you fighting under?
So I was fighting on the ABL for my first fight. So I beat her. I stopped her in 40 seconds.
Ooh.
Yeah, the first round. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to be doing, boxing. So
hey, when you win and when you're the hammer, it's fantastic, right?
Yeah. So then I had my first 3 fights, I think, with ABL, and then so I was 3-0, and then that's when we decided that we actually found out that we needed to be with ABA because that's the Olympic pathway.
Yeah. So from what I understand, I mean, you would understand more about this industry than I do. I'm in the jiu-jitsu and MMA industry. If you flow too far down the ABL path, the ABA kind of doesn't really favour you all that much. Is that right? It's hard to go from one to the other?
Yeah, they used to be really, really strict. Because obviously there's a lot of people that used to have like an ABL book and have 20 fights, and then they come over to ABA and be like, oh, it's my first fight because, so if you're lying about your record and that, but I think they eased up a little bit with it now and let you go between the two. Mm-hmm. But so anyway, I went back over.
I'm just going to adjust your mic for you.
Oh, you can turn it.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, that's better.
A bit nicer for you. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt there, but I want everyone to hear you nice and clearly.
So I went over to the ABA and then started like boxing for them, and obviously represented New South Wales, which was a really cool thing. One of the girls actually just popped a photo up from one of our national trips representing New South Wales. So it brings back heaps of memories. But that first year of fighting had heaps of amateur boxing fights, but I still wanted to avenge that first kickboxing loss.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you wanted that girl back, did you?
I didn't get to fight her, but I fought kickboxing, like Muay Thai again. So in the November of 2010, I had another Muay Thai fight and stopped the girl in the second round. So, that was my 2 Muay Thai fights.
Right.
Haven't been back. So then just pursued boxing, had heaps of fights on the amateur scene, went to China a few times in the Australian team just for like camps in preparation for the national trials that was 2011, the selections for the 2012 London Olympics. I fell short from making the Australian team. I lost to the WA girl. So that was the end of my Olympic journey, unless I decided I wanted to obviously wait
do another
4 years. And it's a long time. Like, I mean, 4 years isn't a long time, but it is when you're just,
In athletically, it is. If you chew up too much of that, you could lose your prime, right?
Definitely. I was 28 at the time, so I was thinking, like, do I really want to wait to 32? And this is the thing too.
Especially for unpaid, like the
exactly.
Olympics is unpaid, right?
Yeah. So and the thought too, to wait 4 years and then not necessarily make the team, like it's not, nothing's given. So I definitely feel for a lot of the, Australian athletes, especially in the boxing scene, that have missed out this year on, the Tokyo Olympics with COVID. Yeah. It's, all that time and sacrifice, and it's a hard
potentially
gig.
Gone,
So I made the call. It's funny how fate just sort of lines up at times too, because I was sort of deciding, I was heartbroken actually that I didn't make the team, because that was the goal. It was a lot of early hours, waking up, time away from my kids. I mean, at that time I was a single mum juggling, raising them, as well as a full-time job. I was managing like a Cotton On mega store. And I was getting my training in. So it was just, I was absolutely devastated. And we were trying to work out what the next goal was. And my coach at the time, Jason, he was like, you know what, you should turn professional. Your style suits being a professional boxer. start making some money. And then, funny enough, like scrolling through my Facebook feed, they were looking for someone in Queensland was looking for a 67 kilo professional female boxer, and I was, stars aligned, and next minute I was professional and had my...
Really? So how many amateur fights had you had at that stage?
I had 28 boxing fights, the two Muay Thai fights, and a whole heap of exhibition fights.
Yeah. So exhibitions are funny, right? Like, it's basically a fight pretty much, isn't it? But it just doesn't go on your record.
Yeah.
Do you ever think to yourself, I mean, I talk about this with the boxing coach here at Sydney West. He says to me, I'm going to get so-and-so into an exhibition. And I kind of think, shouldn't we just get him a fight? Like, he's going to have to go through the same nerves, the same potential injury. Are you better off just having a fight? What do you think about exhibitions?
Like, obviously, my career, I feel like I was rushed. I mean, because I was 26, so I feel like everything's been sped up. But, rewind the clock. If I was a young athlete up and coming, starting my teenage years, I think a few exhibition fights, maybe one or two exhibition fights, just to get the feel. Because obviously it's like you've got your progression, you do pad work and then transferring that pad work or your bag work onto like sparring. Like it's and then sparring is completely different again to fighting. Like, so it's the next little progression. So a couple of exhibition fights, I guess it just depends on the athlete, I guess, too. Like if they've got nerves that they've got to overcome or like competition fears and this and that, some people just want to get in there. And at the end of the day, too, as an amateur fighter, I mean, records don't really mean anything. And to be honest, professional, I mean, my record's not the greatest, but you just get in there and fight. Like if you start...
I think I'm learning more and more. Obviously, say the likes of the UFC, they like, if they're going to sign a new athlete, they like it to be 10-0 or whatever, because they can sell that to the average guy watching. But to those of us that know the fighting, most of our favourite fighters have lost. Some of our favourite fighters actually have lost double-digit fights. But no one cares.
Because they're known for the wars that they've had.
If you're exciting and you can put it on, that's what people care about.
Exactly.
And I think that's something athletes could probably learn, is that I heard Gordon Ryan talking about this. He goes, people don't remember whether you lose. Like, they might talk about it for a day or two, but then they've moved on. People have very short memories.
100%.
Yeah. So I think, like, as athletes, we probably put it on ourselves more than anyone else actually really cares. You know what I mean?
I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah.
And also, too, like, I mean, credibility of who you lose to. Like, even for me, I've lost to 3 opponents in the last 5 years being signed to Bellator, but they're all numbers 1, 2, and 2 in the world. So,
well, I was bringing up your Sherdog here before, and it's it's quite impressive, really, when we have a look at it. So, what is it you've got? Like you've got 21 pro MMA fights.
Yep.
We didn't get to it yet, but did you have amateur MMA fights as well?
No, so because I was already a professional boxer, I had to go straight into being a professional MMA fighter.
Oh, really?
Back then, yes.
Still the case? I feel like guys don't do that anymore.
No, I think I was only talking to someone about it the other day, and I was like, oh. But in saying that, so you've got my record, like it's 13-8. But that first year, I turned professional with my boxing. That was in 2012. I had one professional boxing fight, and then the following year, so I think it was like 6 or 7 months, I finally had my next fight. So, like, I'd gone from being an amateur fighter where you're fighting sort of, every couple of weeks, sometimes at tournaments where you get to fight 2 or 3 times, to then all of a sudden, like, fighting as a professional, and you only have, now I'm only having 1 to 2 fights a year, and it's sort of like, all that training, it's really hard to, I found it really hard in that first year to sort of stay, like the 2012 period after not making the Olympic team, to stay motivated, because it was not knowing what's on the horizon.
What was the goal? What was that next goal?
But then all of a sudden in 2013, like we were in between boxing fights and waiting, my coach was like, so in the January after the Christmas break, he said, why don't you incorporate some jiu-jitsu and wrestling into your training just as a different fitness? And I was like, remember looking at jiu-jitsu, and I was
that looks fucking shit.
I was like, I am not getting in those, because at that time too, I was like one of 2 girls that were sort of training in the gym. So I mean, like, moving forward now, I mean, that's nothing to me. I don't mind being like the only girl, but back then I was like, I'm not getting in those positions with guys. Like, as an outsider to jiu-jitsu,
it looks terrible.
100%. And even like watching 2 guys rolling around, you're just like, what is? But and then he's like, it's all right. You're only going to be rolling with me and my main training partner at the time. And I was like, so once back then I never even used to like being in close boxing, like dirty boxing. I was always like out, like from range. So yeah, a lot of
it covers a lot of physical barriers that are full on.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get past that, it's funny, you don't even think about
100%.
it anymore.
I can walk into a gym now, and I do, and not even know the person's name because you don't even get the name or you don't even hear it. You clap hands and next minute you're rolling and you're in positions that are pretty out there, but it's not even a thought that comes into your mind because you're professional, and that's...
I think you realise pretty quickly once you start doing it that you're like, oh, wait a sec, this is not a sexual thing.
Oh.
We're just trying to break each other's arms and legs off in as nicer way as you can.
That's the last thing you're thinking of.
Yeah, you're not thinking like, oh, their bum's near my face. Like, no. Like, it's kind of comical once you get going with it, isn't it?
So yeah, that happened in January. So it's funny because when I say I started training, I literally was scraping the surface of, like, I don't even think I could call it training now, but back then I was like, oh my God, this is so hard. And my jiu-jitsu was always defensive. Like everything even my wrestling was always defensive, to get back to my feet.
Did they train you like that, or was that how you decided you wanted to approach it
initially?
No,
that's
or did they just go, look, we'll just make you defensively and then we'll build from there?
Yeah, so it's only, that's our initial how we took it, because we thought anyone that's going to be fighting me is going to want to take you down because they know that that's not your strength. So, and that's the mindset that I've always had up until this year, since, my last fight.
You're changing now. You're taking it on as an actual martial art. Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's only taken me 7 years. But, so I've just sort of realised, like, I can't just rely... This is the thing, mixed martial artists now, and when I was only saying this to you before, everyone's becoming so well-rounded. You can't just rely on that one strength. So, I've always... Obviously, I'm Angerfist, and everyone knows that I've got good hands, but, Tyson's dad only said to me, like, after my last fight, he goes, you literally play your best card first, which is obviously my hands, and then if that doesn't work for you, you've got nothing after that.
That's a very good point, isn't it?
Yeah, or if instead of... showing something first before playing your best card. So it just made me sort of sit back. There was a few different things, and that's, I guess, why this year I've really sort of taken on the jiu-jitsu journey, and I've been here more than I ever have.
Well, I mean, I want to get into the jiu-jitsu later, but so to continue on our little pathway here, so you turned into a pro boxer from an amateur boxer.
Yep.
And how many pro fights did you go on to have?
Well, I'd had 2 pro boxing fights up until that January, and then in the April, it was actually April 12th, because on April 11th was my 30th birthday, and I was sitting in the sauna cutting weight, and I remember sitting there thinking, this is not what I thought you'd be doing on your 30th birthday weekend, especially, like I said, at 26 I'd started fighting. So like those early 20s was a completely different lifestyle. So 30th birthday weekend, wasn't drinking, didn't have a sip of alcohol, I was cutting weight. The next night on April 12th, stepped into the cage for the very first time for my debut fight. I'd never stepped into a cage before. So
Which promotion was this?
Fight World Cup on the Gold Coast.
Okay.
I fought a girl called Kyra Purcell. The cage door shut, and I just remember looking at the cage walls, and I was like, wow, this is insane.
So you hadn't been in a cage
I'd
before?
never even
trained?
No.
Okay.
No. So
that's got to be pretty full on, isn't it?
So that's like another one of those little mental things that, like, I find myself, I'm a pretty courageous person. Like, I've really stepped outside of my comfort zone, and that was stepping outside of my comfort zone. So
did you have a big adrenaline dump?
No, I took it. This is the thing. Like, I stood there. I had an awesome first round, landed some really good punches. In the second round, hit her with a right hand that made her, like, fall back, and then she sort of rolled back over herself. And then I've just like, she was on the ground. I've just rushed in for the kill. Super inexperienced now, but I've just rushed in anyway. She's a jiu-jitsu girl. She's grabbed me, flipped me over, and before I knew it, my face is against the cage. She's got my arm out, and I remember looking down, because my daughter was cage side. She had front row seats, and I was literally right in front of her, looking her in the eyes. And I think that's probably something that's haunted her too, because like, the pain look on my face would have just been horrible for her to see. And I tapped out in the second round. So and that was, I guess, the next thing that sort of cemented me to want to get straight back in there and get better at this sport, because I was winning, and then next minute I lost. So I was sort of addicted after that, like, hooked after that first loss.
You've been fighting for a long time now, and you've dropped you've dropped a lot of your opponents with heavy punches. You throw nice, straight, heavy shots. Do you feel like, that's something that a lot of humans have never experienced, that punching someone and feeling them collapse below you? Is that something now that you, in a fight, you do it and you don't kind of overreact because you've felt it before and you're like, okay, I know this, I'm not going to rush? Or do you still feel like, fuck, I've dropped them, I want to put them out from there? Like, what's because that's a feeling a lot of people haven't experienced before. Yeah, no,
I learned from that first fight to be patient with it. Sometimes I've been a little bit too patient. Like, there was one time in one of my Bellator fights when I fought Sinead Kavanagh, which is Conor McGregor's from their gym, Irish girl. She was a boxer, and we pretty much had a 3-round boxing fight in MMA gloves, because we both were just big, and I had a point to prove too, because she's like a 5-time Irish boxing champion.
And the Irish are known for their boxing, right?
100%. Yeah. And I was just like, and she was a big puncher, and we were both black and blue at the end of it. But there was one time, I hit her, and her legs went from underneath her, and I should have jumped on her but I was sort of just waited and was patient. So, it's interesting because a couple of times in fights, like sometimes you can get a little bit scarred from things, but I guess it's over the years of training now, being comfortable in positions. Like, for ages I would never rush into an opponent like I did in that first fight, but now I know how to rush in and be a little bit more composed.
Well, that's experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you had your pro debut. Didn't get to have any, and amateur fights weren't around as much back in the day as they are now. I mean, now more MMA locally that happens is amateur than is professional, I would say. Just even over the 7 years. Like, so when I started, and the reason why there was more opportunities for me to have female MMA fights rather than boxing was when Ronda Rousey was at her biggest. So it was like a new thing, and I had all these girls that were super keen to fight, whereas in the boxing world, like, so that first year when I had my first MMA fight, a couple of months after is when I had my boxing world title fights. So when I won the 2 world titles, that was you were doing both simultaneously.
So that was in the June, and I won 2 world titles, and because that was in my third boxing fight, I won them. It just, nobody wanted to fight. Like, we approached 25 different female active fighters within a 10 kilo weight range, and was paying like 4 times what like any female was getting at the time. Like, the most I think I've made in boxing is like $5,000, and the pay purse for this was going to be $20,000, which is a lot for a female boxer. Yeah, no one would take the fight. So for me then to...
What do you think? Were they worried you were going to hurt them? What is it?
I actually really don't know, because if that was me, I would have jumped to it. Like, I just don't get, and this, I was only saying this to my physio this morning, just the different mentality of fighters, like, fighters that protect records, I guess, like I said, early on in those careers, in my career, I set that standard of the type of fighter I wanted to be, like, for myself as well. So, I take opportunities. I've never turned down world title fights. I've had 3 boxing world title fights. I've lost 2 of them, but in saying that, like, some people fight their whole career without ever getting to fight for a world title. So you've got to back yourself.
And I mean, following the direction you have, it's probably fair to say that you're one of, if not the most well-known Australian female mixed martial artist. I was thinking about it this morning. I was thinking, like, if we were to list Australian pro mixed martial artists, who are people going to put in that list? And I suppose Megan Anderson now, because she's fighting, she fought Amanda on the weekend. That she'd probably be at people's mindset. But I'd say then you're in the same sentence. Am I missing other people that I'm not?
I mean, back in, like, when it all first started, like, because you had the Tough series, and you had Beck Rawlings and Astro Girl.
I know.
But she trains over at ATT, and I'm going to feel really bad. She's probably not going to watch this anyway, so it's okay. Astro Girl.
I know the girl I'm talking about.
Yeah, because Jessie just fought her, didn't she? No, Nadia Kasim fought her in the UFC.
But you've kind of been around as long as those girls and then are continuing on now, whereas a few of those girls have kind
of been and gone, yeah.
Been and gone, I suppose.
It's interesting because even now, like Bellator commentators will be like, a veteran to the sport, and I'm thinking, I'm not a veteran.
Like, when did I become a veteran?
Yeah, and I'm like, is that because they think I'm old? And then I'm thinking to myself, well, shit, I've had 21 fights now. Like, but it's funny because I really feel like it's only been these last 3 years of my career that I've actually, become a martial artist, and it's really only this year that after my last loss to Chris, I just sort of sat back and really reevaluated everything, and and just changed my approach to how I sort of am taking on being a martial artist.
But for those listening, that's Chris Cyborg, who
the baddest woman on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, Amanda Nunes definitely has something to say about that nowadays. But if we take Amanda out of the mix,
she's been a dominant.
Cyborg was always the one that people were even if you just talk to a guy who was a casual fan, he'd go, I wouldn't want to fucking fight her.
Yeah.
Like, she's scary. That's what everyone said the same thing, because she was really hurting girls. Like, she was fighting in Invicta at one stage there, and I remember we'd watch going, this is
lamb to the slaughter.
Like, she nearly seemed to hit people kind of more like a guy would hit somebody. And I want to get to that fight eventually, obviously, but that's obviously, there's no shaming in no fighter or athlete ever wants to lose or is ever happy with losing, but there's definitely no shame to be had in losing to the the top echelon of the sport.
I feel like the last fight I'd lost before that was back in 2017 against Julia Budd. Which is also...
Now, that was a split decision it has down here.
Yeah, and that was actually for the Bellator world title. So,
right.
So that was a 5-round fight.
Another title fight.
Yeah, so that was the only 2 fights I've lost, both for the world title. So I've done a lot, and that fight there was actually a big turning point for me with what came on after it, which I had 3 good wins after it. But and that's how I'm sort of approaching this loss as well. I feel
2
like
TKOs in there. Definitely the one with the slam was quite nice. Was that the one from guard?
Yeah,
I remember watching it, and you'd done a little bit of jiu-jitsu with us, and then I was watching going, okay, how's she going to go from guard here? And you just picked her up and slammed her on her head. And she tried to armbar you, I think, didn't she?
Yeah. And I was like, I remember I was only saying that to someone the other day. I'm like, probably not the defense that Luke would have been after.
No, but hey, maybe you wouldn't have got the slam finish if you hadn't done that. So, hey, maybe don't listen to me. But so how do we go from, having that first fight where you'd never walked into a cage before to then being signed to effectively the second biggest promotion in the world, which is Bellator?
Yeah, well, that first year, so like I said, I had the first fight in April. I lost by armbar. 4 weeks later, I was back in the cage, which really, in perspective now, because I just wanted to be active. I just wanted to fight all the time. So I love the fact that
because you were used to it with the amateur boxing, where it was like, get another fight.
And I wasn't hurt either, like between fights. Maybe I was... no bruising or injuries or anything like that. So it was match 4 weeks later. I won that fight, so I was like, that was super good to get that, the win back. The next month, I was back in there again. No, sorry, that was May. The next month is when I fought for the world titles, and then the next 2 weeks after the world titles, I dropped down to bantamweight and fought again. So that first year, I was super busy. I also fought on a gauntlet where I fought 3 times in one night.
Mixed martial arts or boxing?
Yeah, no, mixed martial arts. Really? Yeah, 3 cage fights in one night.
I didn't think, kind of in the more modern era, you don't really hear about that.
Yeah, well, that was something I remember when I very first started fighting. I was watching TV and there was an English promotion, and it had something similar. I was watching these girls go out and fight and then come back and they're wrapped up in their thermal blankets and trying to keep their body temperature hot, and then they're back out there. And I just remember watching it thinking, that's really cool. I want to do something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I look at it and go, that seems like a terrible idea.
I got the opportunity to do that. Yeah, fought 3 times in one night. Wow. And I lost by split decision in the last fight. And
were they all 3 5-minute?
3 threes.
They were all 3 threes?
Yeah, 3 threes. But I was, by the last, I was wrecked. It's crazy to think, because obviously each fight you need to go in there and do as much as you can to win. Mm-hmm. And then obviously try not to get hurt, but then in saying that too, you need to do what you need to do to win. But so I lost that fight, and long story short, the girl that I lost to, she she was actually got signed to Invicta after that.
Mm-hmm.
And her manager actually reached out to me. Sorry, no, rewind it a little bit. She got signed to Invicta, but she was having one more fight before her fight in Invicta, and that was against me as a rematch for that loss. So we fought, had a rematch, and I stopped her in the second round. And then after that fight, her manager actually reached out to me because he was watching it. Probably didn't look too good on her part because she'd already been signed to Invicta and then just lost. And that's a risky thing with these girls taking fights like that too.
Mm-hmm.
So he reached out to me and he's like, I watched your fight. I was really impressed. I'm Faith's manager. I've got her signed to Invicta. Obviously, it would be not like conflict of interest if I got you signed to Invicta, but I could get you signed to Bellator. And I was like, oh, which is way better.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
I mean, no shot at Invicta, but like,
yeah,
Bellator's a bigger promotion, isn't it?
I was super hesitant at the time though, because I actually had a few other people from around the world.
Okay, I'm looking at here. So there's your fight with Faith. You knocked her out with a knee to the body, it looks like. There? Is that what it says?
Oh, I hit her with a straight right that I think was...
They've got it down as a knee to the body.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe the knee is what finished it. I can't really remember now, but I just remember that straight right that sort of did some damage.
Yep.
But so he reached out to me and I was a bit hesitant, like I said, like just especially these internet messages and stuff like that. And he sent a contract through to me. And I still hadn't returned the contract, like the manager fighter contract to him. Then he said...
So he was effectively squeezing in to become your manager?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then at that time, so the gym that I'd been training at this whole time at Port Macquarie actually closed down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I started travelling to Newcastle, which there's a Brotherhood gym down... it's up there from here.
Yeah.
And then I also started coming down here to Sydney to train at Beastings.
Mm-hmm.
But, so I hadn't returned this contract to my manager. Well, he's my manager now, but
he is now.
He is now, yeah. So he'd actually sent me through the contract for Bellator. They wanted to sign me for a 4-fight contract. Again, I was still really hesitant, because I was just trying to read between the lines because I'm like,
is this real?
Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of scams and this and that. Anyway, I'd signed the Bellator contract because I remember seeing Bellator on TV, watching some crazy fights on there.
I think back then it was like Hector, and that was in his
prime. I remember
there.
watching one guy that just got leg kicked heaps, and then he changed his stance, and then the other guy just attacked the other leg. The poor guy by the end of it couldn't stand. I don't know who it was, but I'll never forget the fight. So I'd return the contract to Bellator. To the guy, to my manager, and then that all got cemented. Before I knew it, I was matched for my first fight in the May. So I signed in October. And then anyway, it was all matched, and then I was like, "Oh, I haven't returned my contract to them."
they'd matched you, and you still hadn't even.
Yeah, yes, and he never pushed it. This is so Chris is my manager, Chris Vender from MMA U Management. Like I said, I'd been signed for my first fight, was heading over there, and then I was like, "Oh," so I ended up signing the contract with him because I'm like, this guy's like.
He's legit.
Stayed true to his word. Like it's not bullshit.
Is he Australian?
No, he's American.
How do they just keep track of what's happening over here? How do they have scouts? Like, how do guys like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, how does he know what's going on in the local scene? How does he know that you're someone he wants to...
Well...
Or was it just because he was following the other girl?
Yeah, well, he was following the other girl because he was watching the stream. So I think, obviously, now it's definitely a lot easier because there's so many streamed events and stuff. But yeah, so he was a manager for female fighters. So he had quite a few fighters. So, yeah, like I said, he signed me for a 4-fight contract. I went over to my debut fight and stopped the girl in the first round.
Yeah, so that, if we're looking at you, that was... was it
AJ.
Kennard?
Oh, no, Adriana Jenkins.
So we've got Bellator... Adriana Jenkins, TKO punches. John McCarthy.
Yeah.
Big John.
This is a funny...
Knocked her out in the first round.
Yeah, funny story. So I never had watched much UFC back then.
Yeah.
And... I'd gone over there to Bellator, and I remember sitting on the plane and I was just like, wow, this is like pretty cool. I'm going to America to have like an MMA fight. I'd already boxed in America by then, but like it was just cool.
But this is pretty crazy. Like if I have a look here, you've gone from Storm Damage and MMA Down Under, just your local shows, and then it bumps up to Bellator 137. That's a big step. And when you go into those big shows, I don't know if people listening can appreciate it. They treat you like a star, right? Like I've been around the UFC and it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's so professional.
Yes.
Everything is like run to a T. And like big shout out to the ops team because I love them all. They're awesome. And this is one of the reasons why I'm still with Bellator is just because they are all such a good group of people.
Now, when you first went to Bellator, was Coker in charge then, or was
Yeah, he was.
what was his? What's the guy's name that I'm thinking of? Do you remember the other guy that used to run Bellator?
Nope.
Yeah, okay. So it was a dude that had it before, and it was he had a lot of issues with a lot of fighters. I forget his name.
I think Scott Coker had just taken over from memory.
From all accounts, Scott is fantastic.
Yeah.
Scott had obviously sold Elite XC and all that to the UFC and Strike Force.
Yeah.
And I think he had like a year where he wasn't allowed to do anything. And then he went straight to Bellator and just cleaned Bellator up and made it.
Yeah, what it is now. No, he's always had it the whole time I've been there, and I'm pretty sure that's around the same period of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the funny thing is that when I was like heading over there, MMA was still my second sport. So like I was still like, I was still a world.
This is fun for my part-time job.
Yeah, like I was still a boxer. I was still pursuing, I was a world champion boxer. That was still my focus, and MMA was just a side sport. My record when I got signed with Bellator was 5 wins, 4 losses. So I was happy just to take fights. I didn't care about my record.
Yep. So your record then, really, you've continued on quite well because, now it shows, 8 losses, but so you really haven't, you've won a lot of fights since then. Like you went on to win 8 fights and only lose 3.
Yeah. And like I said before, they're ranked. So I had my debut fight, beat her in the first round. So my second fight, they matched me with Marloes Kunin, who at that time was ranked number 2 in the world. And probably should have done a little bit more research, but she was a jiu-jitsu, like I think even looking at her record now, like most of, I think 17 wins of hers or whatever is all by submission. But yeah, I just went in there.
Yeah, so she's 23-8 with 17 submissions.
Yeah, so
that's not a bad effort, is it?
Well, one of those is mine, and she's still got my arm as a souvenir.
Yeah, I see it here. She actually hasn't fought for a while. That was your fight.
She's retired now.
Okay, that's what happened. Right, gotcha, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of submissions, though.
Yeah.
A lot of submissions.
So she...
A lot of arm bars, too.
Yeah, a lot of souvenirs.
She submitted Liz Carmouche, all the girls at Roxanne Metafari. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's... that's no chump, right?
Yeah. So that was my second Bellator fight.
Yeah.
And again, like I said,
that's a reasonable
huge
step up, right?
That's what's coming from the local shows, and then But again, like I said, I've signed the contract for whoever they've given me. I think I've had probably one of the hardest runs on the Bellator scene, because even now, like I'm sort of waiting for a match for my next opponent, and I'm just sort of watching these other high level fighters getting like new people. But that's cool. I don't want easy fights, and I never have. So
what would you say to young fighters coming through? Would you say play the game and try and have a clean record, or would you say just fight and become a better fighter because of that? Because as a coach, I don't even with my amateurs, especially with amateurs, because I don't think their record is as important as an amateur, I say to them, let's learn and have good fights. If you just crush cans, I could sign you against cans and you're going to get to win fights, and your mate's going to think you're cool because you're 10-0.
Yep.
But you're going to fight a guy eventually who's actually just been trained.
We all know like gyms that are like that.
Yes.
That have had people that have done that. So, everyone's case is different. Like I said to you before, I feel like my runs, because I started late, I've just had to just jump at every opportunity. And I do that. But, if I was younger and coming through, like obviously you need to be realistic. Like I feel like I've always been like, I've never been out of place with the opponents. Like I've belonged there. So I think it just comes down to making sure you've got like good coaches around you, with you that are honest as well. So yeah, you don't want to be fighting bums that make you look good or whatever, but you also don't want to be thrown in with someone that's way out of your league. So everybody's different. You don't want to see your fighter get hurt.
No, definitely. I think that's definitely true.
Yeah. So each fighter's definitely different.
So when it comes to a fight, do you make that decision yourself, or does your team, do you talk with your manager, your coaches, and say, what do you guys think? Is this small? Do you just go, fuck it, I want to fight?
Well,
I feel like fuck it, I want to fight is your answer
yeah,
most of the time.
It is. It's literally been my answer for the last 12 years up until just recently, and it's the first time, and I was really, really torn because I've always just gone, like if I could fight on 4 weeks notice. Even I've taken Bellator fights on 4 weeks notice. Fight number 3 was on 4 weeks notice. I came away with a win, but it
Gabrielle Holloway.
So it has always just been effort and fight, but I'm a professional now and I've got the right people around me, and I have a good team behind me for a reason. And so it was the first time that I actually listened, and I know that I listened for the right reason. Well, I'll just wait for this next fight. I just want to get back in there and fight. So
okay. Can we talk about that? There was a fight that was going to be made and then it just didn't work out for whatever reason.
Like, long story short, I was given a date, so we were working on April 9th. And we were sort of asking who the opponent was going to be. And I wasn't really getting anything back, which makes it hard to sort of train for, a particular person. And especially when you get to the level that I'm at now, it's, if someone was fighting me, for example, they'd want to make sure that they're really working on their hands and their defense. So no one's going to take a fight with me on 3-4 weeks notice, because that's a proper preparation. So I did get an opportunity to fight Kat Zingano. That was on 4 weeks notice, and Kat, in her time, has beaten some really good fighters. She's the last person to beat Amanda Nunes, I'm pretty sure. She's beat Misha Tate.
She fought Ronda, so just immediately fighting her, people knew about her.
Like, she's got a big following, and don't get me wrong, like, I back myself and I know I can beat that fight, beat her. But in saying that too, like, why this will be my first fight back after my world title fight with Chris Cyborg. So why cut myself short in my preparations? Like, there's certain things and styles that, things that we've been working on. Like, I'd want to work on some, submissions with you, like in particular for that fight. In my strength and conditioning block, it would have been cutting it short. And long story short too, with COVID and that as well, like, coaches, us flying to America. So we just wanted to push the date back a couple of weeks, just to give me a little bit more time, because we've got to apply for travel exemptions, and it is a bit of a nightmare at the moment. So I just felt like with 4 weeks notice, it was a lot that was going to have to happen in that time, minus the week of fight week. So technically it's only 3 weeks of training left, as well as preparing everything.
Getting on weight, all that sort of stuff.
So I just, as much as I wanted to take that fight on April 9th, I had to listen to my coaches and stuff too. But
I could see that frustrated you, especially because then they booked her in another fight. I could see the frustration in you, like, oh, that's my fight.
It is, because I just thought to myself, well, if I'm not taking that fight all 4 weeks, no one's going to take a fight on her. And I'm like, they'll be. And my manager was thinking the same thing. He's like, we'll be able to get the extra few weeks. And then the other day we found out that she got matched with someone else, and I'm, damn it, but it's all right. Everything again happens for a reason. I'll get my fight, and if anything, it just gives me better preparation. So
look, and I think what you're doing at the moment, it's the first time that I've seen you really take grappling seriously, and I think it can become, you can turn something that wasn't your strongest point to something that's really a strong point in a fairly short period of time if you're a good athlete. And with the right coaching, and I think that's what we're going to see, in your grappling side of things, for sure.
Well, I was only thinking about it the other day too, and I was always super defensive. Everything I do. Well, actually, my take on like BJJ was just, if I'm a good enough wrestler, they're never going to get me to the ground, so I won't need it.
The idea is good in theory.
So I mean, I fought Gabby. What date was that? 2015 or 2016?
Gabby. Oh, yeah,
Holloway?
Gabrielle. Yeah, so that was in 2015, November.
So 2015...
6 years ago now.
Yeah, so 2016, I actually went to Jackson's. The wrestling coach was actually at that fight, and he saw the fight.
Izzy?
No, Chad. Right. But I did work with Izzy when I was over at Jackson's. But I got taken down some terrible, terrible takedowns, and he's like, "You really need to work on your face." So that's when I took wrestling on board, and was really serious with that. So, and again, I disliked wrestling. I hated wrestling class, but then I just did it that much that it's something
the toughest of all. It's just, there's no easy wrestling class. It's always difficult. You're coming off of the
and you always sore the next day, and it's like
most amount of injuries come from wrestling. More than getting punched in the face, more than doing jiu-jitsu. Wrestling seems to be where knees get blown.
Yeah, it's a rough sport. But, 2016, that's when I really started taking the wrestling side of things and improved heaps.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that I can't just rely on having solid wrestling. Like, I need a ground game. And then when I got to the ground game, all I was doing was being defensive and getting to my feet, whereas now I'm realising that the best defence is having an awesome offense.
Yeah, for sure.
Like giving them something back.
And nearly the amount of effort it requires to just become defensively good, you may as well put that much effort and just understand the whole thing. Like, if someone came to you and said, Arlene, I just want you to teach me to be able to block punches. You'd say, well, let's work on a jab too, because then they have to cover, and they go, no, I just want to cover up. You'd probably go, look, that's probably not the best idea. Let's just take it all on. And I get MMA people coming to me and saying, look, I don't really like jiu-jitsu, but just show me how do I get out of this position? And I kind of, once they understand, just accept it as a martial art and try and take it on, you're going to understand it more, and it's going to become much easier.
I often wondered, like, obviously I'm doing 3 or 4 sessions here like a week if I don't have any other commitments to get in the way, but like, obviously I see that you have a structure like for your week and how you do things, and I sort of would get home sometimes I'm thinking, why are we not learning, like, defense things? But I'm realizing that by understanding like how you actually set up submissions properly, then you actually realize that's how you, on the reverse side, how you stop them from happening to you. Because I always
say to people, it's like Apple made the iPhone, everyone loved it, and Samsung went, all right, well, we'll grab an iPhone and we'll undo this thing and we'll just make our own version of it. Yeah, it's kind of, if you can reverse engineer the offense, you can work the defense of most things. So if you hear me saying, look, a main point here is that we must be able to control this elbow line to hit this arm bar. You go, okay, well, if someone's trying to armbar me, if I can keep my elbow line safe, just as the thing,
well, that was something that took me a little while to understand, and now I'm understanding it, and it just completely changes how I'm like approaching it all, which makes it exciting.
And in training, if you're training properly, you're going to put yourself in positions where, see, that's the thing with most people, especially with jiu-jitsu, everyone comes in and just wants to win their round. So it's like you work your A game, and your A game gets a little polished, but your B, C, D, E down to your F game, which is like getting out of the back control, you don't put any work, and then it comes to a fight and you're like, geez, I wish I'd worked on that, right?
Well, I've got no issues there because I'm pretty sure I'm stuck in like E and F positions all the time here.
Yeah, but before you know it, E and F will just be something where they put you there and you go, yeah, I've been here so many times that I know what to do. And you just build a bulletproof game, and that's the go.
Yeah, and feeling uncomfortable. Like the best saying is, get used to being comfortable when you're uncomfortable. Yeah. So, there's been a lot of times here, and it's interesting that I'm excited. I'm enjoying it too. Like, and this is, like I said with the wrestling, like I didn't like wrestling, and this is the thing. Like I wasn't the biggest fan of jiu-jitsu. Like I didn't get to and I stored. Like I first walked in here 2018, and you've seen me flutter in and flutter out. But this is like the first I walked in January and have been
super consistent.
Yeah, and if I'm not, I'm letting you know. I'm not. So
it's fantastic. It's great to see, because for me as a coach, obviously I love coaching my entire team. I love the hobbyists who come in and do 1 class a week, but there's something extra about the athletes. The athletes are. It's more of an interest close to my heart, because you like. The tactics we're using and the skills we're using are going to get tested at the highest level, and that's fantastic. That's what you want for all of you. I don't want to be teaching a class that's this McDojo where none of it works when anyone actually goes live with something. Like, this is the ultimate test, is how do we go when we go in. And
it'd be almost like, I guess, you hearing a story of, especially if there was a female that was out and she got attacked or something, and knowing that, she protected herself using something that you'd taught her. Like, it's why you.
I mean, for any of the girls listening, every girl thinks to themselves, geez, I would like to do some type of martial art so that couldn't happen. Obviously, the way society is, girls are at more of a risk than guys walking around in the street to predatory type of behaviour. And there's a lot of rubbish out there where people are doing stuff that's not going to assist them. And I say to everyone, look, jiu-jitsu is what it's what my little girl does. It's what I think. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's good if you can throw your hands, but most girls are probably going to struggle to just knock someone out.
Well, when you look in the, when females are getting attacked too, you're often in the positions that on the mat,
they're pinned on the ground. Yeah. And jiu-jitsu teaches them to become first of all more comfortable in these positions that before, like you said, when you first started, it was this looks terrible.
Yeah.
And I feel like, if you're a little more comfortable, you're not going to completely freak out, and then you might be able to find a way to get back to your feet. It's not going to be that you armbar them and snap their arm in half. You might survive something that was going to be worse. And, I think jiu-jitsu is fantastic for females, even that don't want to compete, that just want to come and get a little bit of confidence.
Yeah, I was going to say that the confidence side of things, it's like one of the biggest parts with all martial arts. It's not necessarily that you're going to, I started boxing and I don't plan on using it outside for any reason, but it's just given me this air of confidence, in myself. And I was never a confident person, growing up. And
you know what? Confidence, it's funny. The way that bullies or predators work, they're good at picking weaker targets.
Yep.
If you're a victim and you're walking around like a victim, you're probably more likely to be picked by that person than someone who is a little more confident as well. It's part of that bully mentality. They're good at finding what they perceive as a weak link, aren't they?
Even like for me with just my martial arts journey, there's been a lot of times in my career where I've had to step well and truly out of my comfort zone. Many, many different times, not just even in training, but performing, stepping into the cage for the first time on my 30th birthday. So that's just carried over to my personal life. Even standing in front of a group of people talking, or I don't know, applying for jobs or just doing different things like that. That seems nothing compared to when you're sort of fighting and, those sorts of uncomfortable positions that you're sort of putting yourself in. So I definitely think that, doing martial arts and being in the training room, those sorts of things can help other people with their personal lives. Carrying
and it's very hard when somebody walks in the door to list what this potentially could do for you. We understand it because we've been martial artists a long time now, but if somebody walks in the door and then I roll out a list, look, it's going to help you, they'd probably go, whatever, mate, you're fucking just trying to sell me something here. But the reality is you see it in people. You see people come in, they're kind of meek and mild, and then before you know it, even just coming into a whole group of people and having to be around these, before you know it, they're more comfortable in a big group.
Well, and they're made friends too. I was just going to say something and I completely forgot what it was. Lost my mind.
Anyway, so it's great having you address the part of your game that you wanted to work on, which is your grappling side of things.
Yep.
Obviously, though, we're still going to see you going in there trying to knock girls out.
I am Angerfist.
Maybe with more confidence in where the fight could go, do you see yourself being more relaxed and potentially it even improves your striking side of things?
For sure, because there's many times. Even if I rushed in to finish someone and they grab onto my leg or something like that, most people sort of freak out or, if you're in guard or different positions, I know that before I would sort of always freak out thinking that I've got to be careful, but I know how far I can push things now. It's definitely helping. But I've set some goals. I've won one fight by submission. That was years ago now, and it's only because she just fell into my guard and it was a triangle, and I remember just looking up going, I think I know this, and then before I knew,
it is triangle
choke. It was
Fight World Cup. Kenani Mega Kia. I don't know, I'm probably not saying that right. Triangle choke. Late in the third too.
Nice. It'll be really cool to win by submission. Even the next one, it's one thing. I'm definitely not going to change up my
guard.
Change what if it happens, it happens.
Yep.
But just having that goal, setting things up and seeing what happens.
Now you're a smart professional athlete, so you don't just worry about the actual martial arts side of things. You're also doing strength and conditioning, and I see you spend a lot of time on your strength and conditioning.
Yep.
Obviously that's a big part of, especially nowadays, professional MMA. Back in the old days it was the better martial artist won the fight, but then now it became the more steroided martial artist won the fight. Now it's become the best, probably all-round athlete.
Yep.
Do you find doing that stuff, how long have you been doing proper strength and conditioning, and are you finding that's definitely improve your game?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been with Ethos working with me since 2018 now. Tyson Pedro recommended that I go there. So before that, I've always done strength and conditioning, but all the fight gone bad style training sessions or Tabata. I've never had an issue with training hard, but Mir's just super professional. So it's not just a matter of doing, like when I'm doing my strength work like lifting heavy or being explosive. Like he does a lot of like prehab sort of exercises too that at the end of the day, I'm 38 next month, and I train super hard, and I've been doing this for 12 years now, and I feel like he's prolonged my career.
Yeah.
Obviously with a big focus on recovery too. He overlooks my whole training week as well. So I've got and I've always had a really bad habit of just overtraining. Like there's a lot of red sessions, and
I wanted to talk to you about that because from an outside point of view, if I was just watching your Instagram, I look and go, Jesus, she's so busy. She's doing 1,000 things at once.
Yeah.
Is that something that, you're learning as you become more mature in the sport? You're learning, wait a sec, more is not more?
100% quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things I preach to. Obviously it's hard. Like, I'm in a position now, and we weren't talking this before, I used to work a full-time job, and time might be poor, like, so if you could fit in a 3-hour session in the evening or something, you do that, whereas now I get the luxury of splitting that up over the day and that. But because I have so many other little things going on, obviously being a mum and other things that I'm doing, coaching, mentoring, this and that, I'd literally run a day where I'd be like training, on to the next errand, training, this and that. So I wasn't actually resting. Like I was getting a break between sessions, but I'm noticing even the last sort of couple of months that I really have to actually have a rest time, and that doesn't include driving to my next session.
Yep.
So I did it 1 week here. I think I finished a training session in Wollongong, drove 2 hours home, and I was running late because of the traffic, jumped out of the car here, jumped straight on the mat to do a sparring session. So I'd been sitting down for 2 hours in the car,
tight,
didn't warm up, hips were tight, went to throw like a bit of a question mark kick, and next minute my hip's gone. I was like, so it's just being smarter, I'm not working a full-time job, so the reason I'm not working a full-time job is to be a professional athlete, so I actually have to be professional. So, big focus on recovery and, just really looking after my body so I can prolong my career.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer and pusher of the recovery side of things, because a lot of athletes over the years haven't really thought about that till more recently.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest things is sleep that I talk to people about. And people hate to hear it because most people neglect it to some degree. Yeah. Or most people just go, I get sleep. I just shut my eyes and I get some sleep. But particularly as an athlete, and not just as an athlete to perform physically, but also to retain the information that you're taking on. Like if you want to continue to get better, your brain has to be able to receive the information. And if you're underslept, that's a huge issue. Yeah. How are you on the sleep side of things? Oh, well, 10 o'clock's lights out. And then up until recently, I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning for coaching, but I'm not coaching, so I can get that extra bit of sleep. So, this is only something that sort of happened over the last few weeks because, like I said, I used to just be on to the next thing, whereas now I've freed up my time so that I can even have like 20-minute naps, sometimes twice a day. But sleep's a really big thing for me, and I've noticed overall that it's actually changed how I'm going into sessions. Like, instead of dragging myself to like training, because like I'm in such a good routine and a habit now that I just go to training like it's like I'm a robot, regardless of how I feel. But now, instead of feeling like that, I was like, okay, I'm a bit more energized, and I'm feeling that my output in training is a lot higher. But it's sleep. I can sleep anytime. Like, even if I finish this now, I can literally go over there and have a you're good at napping.
Yeah.
That's a good skill.
Yeah, well, it's something I actually feel that. So I use hyperbaric chambers. I haven't used one for ages, but after using that, I used to use it a couple of times a week. It actually it taught me how to just be able to switch off, and now I could still do it.
So I used a hyperbaric chamber once, and it's funny because I've never been claustrophobic in my whole life. And then I got in that hyperbaric chamber and they zipped it up. So for people that don't know, they zip you in this big sort of clear or clearish sleeping bag type thing, right? And then they pressurize it, they pump it with air.
And you can't get out.
But you can't get out. Because the girl says to me, now, you can't just open this. She goes, if you need to get out, you got to
press the buzzer.
You got to buzz me because it's under pressure, right? And I'm like, and when she said that, I kind of got this feeling of, oh fuck, I'm like locked in this little coffin. You feel like you're in a coffin.
Yeah, and then you like start doubting, like, is this oxygen that they're putting in? And
you started thinking there's like the
first
CIA
time I did.
were on you or something. But I had like this tiny little freak out, and then I just told myself, pull your head in. This is fine, and I ended up relaxing. But I had like a moment of.
Did you sleep in there?
No, I couldn't relax enough, and I never did it again. Do you find that that's something that you get good benefit from?
Yeah, so usually like I'll jump in there. I don't know if again like it was because I was always just super busy then too that I could, but I'd be in there for about 10 minutes and then before I know I'd just be out and I'd go to sleep. There was one time actually I was water loading, I think before my Bellator fight or flight. I don't know why I was water loading actually. Might have been another fight, but I was in there and I was needing to go to the bathroom.
Oh, no.
It was the worst.
That is not good.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I felt like it just like so for my sleep, if I went to sleep, actually at that time I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning back when I was using it because I used to do 5 a.m. training sessions, and I'd get up at 4 a.m. and feel like I just had the best night's sleep. So the quality, like if I didn't actually measure my sleep quality back then, but it'd be really interesting to see like how many hours of deep sleep because it just felt.
Is that something you do now?
I have a look, yeah.
Yeah, how do you track it?
Just through my watch.
Okay, that's a Garmin, that one.
Yeah.
How do you? So does it?
It just goes to my watch, to my phone.
To your phone, and does that break down into like there's different sleep stages?
Yeah,
how much you get of each?
Yeah. So usually I'm getting about 3.5, 4 hours of deep sleep a night.
Yeah, that's good.
And then medium and then light.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's interesting because it'll show like obviously when I get up to go to the bathroom.
Yep.
Because like I get up 1 or 2 times a night.
Yeah, tell me about it. Because I train late at night and I sauna, so I've got a lot of water on board.
Yeah.
It kills me. I wish that there was a way to get around that. I'd pay someone to sort that out.
And you just know, like I remember the first few years, you'd be like, I'll just lay there, you'll forget about it. But you just know if you need to go, you just wake up, go to the toilet, because then you can come back and then you get a better sleep.
Otherwise, like I'll lay there and I can't get back to sleep.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing ever.
So
recovery-wise, I also used to use a float tank. I actually had a float tank. I really enjoyed the float. Is that something you've tried?
I have tried. I've only been there a few times.
Yeah.
Listening to, what is it that, I know it's not the harmonic, but there was some music that you're supposed to play it when you're studying and it helps your brain.
Oh, take on information?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was listening to the flotation tank though. Maybe it was relaxing. I can't remember.
They can play different stuff, but they think that you can kind of speed up your learning ability or something. You can learn languages and stuff.
Which I can't remember why I was listening to it in a flotation tank though.
Was that at Bondi? Where'd you go to?
Parramatta.
Okay.
Yeah, Pinnacle Health. Back when I was going there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So but I'm massive on recovery. Like I've got a pair of Normatec boots at home.
Yeah. So talk to me about these things. So I've been seeing the athletes for years wear them, and I mean, I think the concept is that it promotes blood flow. Is that right? Yeah,
because it pushes the old blood up. But it's just like obviously like a when you get your blood pressure taken, so it's just big cuffs.
Like a big cuff.
I guess it promotes the, like blood, but for me, it feels like it just gets tight on the muscles. It's like a big massage.
Okay.
But yeah, no. I don't get too far behind the science of it, but I just see that a lot of athletes use them, so I got a pair. And
do they have those that they pump cold or hot water through them as well?
I've used them before at a physio, but this one's just compression. Yeah.
So there's so many things on the market. So I mean, I suppose to the average person, one is they can't afford to do it all. So I know that the Normatec. What would the average person use? What are some like must-haves? What would you say are the must-haves?
Oh, definitely a massage gun. Oh, especially too, like I'll sit there and I'll put myself in front of my son and I'm like, here, and he'll like massage us from my shoulders and definitely foam rollers.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like a tennis ball in a football sock up against the wall, and just to get, especially like, always boxing, and especially driving too. Back when I was driving heaps, I just been in that position and you just get really tight.
Mm-hmm.
I like the cryotherapy, the 3 minutes in the really cold, but sometimes we'll do ice baths at home, but all bits and pieces.
What about sauna? Do you do sauna?
I used to do sauna a lot when I was training evenings in zoo, not so much lately. But if I do swim sessions, I'll definitely finish it in the sauna.
Yeah.
I felt that after wrestling class, jumping in the sauna for 15, 20 minutes would definitely help with being less sore the next day.
Yeah.
Not feeling like a truck's hit me.
If I said to someone like what would be the one thing that I think they should do recovery wise, I personally think saunas.
As long as you're rehydrating yourself like properly.
No.
I think a lot of people have a misconception of...
no, don't dehydrate yourself.
Yeah. I remember before my world title fight in New Zealand, I was in a sauna over there cutting weight, and there was this old Italian, Greek, I can't remember now, but I just remember this old couple, and they were a bit bigger set, and they were in there, and they were cutting weight, they were losing weight, but like obviously just had complete misconception of actually what weight they were losing. So I had to explain to them that they're just losing water weight, and as soon as they drink,
they thought they were like
losing physical
fat loss benefits.
Yes,
Oh, Jesus.
yeah. So like I'm cutting weight for a fight, so I'm not even wanting to talk. But then when I'm hearing them, I was like, oh my God, someone's got to educate these, because I'm thinking the poor people are going to be in there losing weight and then wondering what's happening when they drink. Like,
there's some bullshit. I mean, did you see? I don't even follow her on Instagram. But Paige Van Zandt used to have this thing she'd put around her belly and make her belly sweat, and apparently you'd lose
sweet sweat. Yeah, the wrap.
Yeah. I'm not. I don't know if you're sponsored by those guys, but I don't.
No,
I don't think that's a real thing.
Like, it's good to make you sweat.
I don't think making particular parts of your body sweats makes you lose fat in that particular part of the body.
Yeah,
Well,
at the end of the day, diet is.
Yeah, I think so. So obviously, all that side of thing as well. You do you have people do your meals for you, or you do all that?
Yeah, no, I've got a company. So I work with the fight dietitian, like Geordie. He's on board with like all the like high level UFC fighter. Like, I'm pretty sure he's got all the champs on board at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But then
is he Australian? Is he?
Yes, yeah, he lives in Queensland. But I've teamed up with Athletes Nutrition. So Paul, he organised. So literally, Geordie has my like meal plan of what I got to consume each day, sort of thing, and then he pretty much sends that to Paul, who organises my meal, my lunch and dinner meals, and he just follows the right amount of protein, carbs, everything that I need, and then I just get them sent to me every Tuesday.
Do you track how many calories you burn?
Not really, no. I just, So
are they just working? Are they just working out what they think you're burning and then working off that?
So Mia, my strength and conditioning coach, he works with Geordie. So they have my training week, which is obviously like on the training times, my schedule. So obviously the red sessions, which will be the harder ones, and
do they account for your martial arts training as well?
Yep. Yeah. So they mark my whole training week. So even like my runs, and so weekends are a little bit less food. Like Sunday's a horrible day. It's so boring.
I eat the most on Sunday, and I do the least amount of calories. I don't do it. Yeah, I couldn't be a professional.
No, I don't track any of it. It's literally a no-brainer for me. I don't even see any of that sort of thing. So Mia speaks to Geordie speaks to Paul sends me meals. I do my own breakfast and obviously snacks and stuff like that, but I wouldn't have no idea what my calorie intake is a day. But the funny thing is, so last fight camp was the first time I've actually had Geordie on board, the fight dietitian. And I've always cut weight. Like, I've never had any issues making featherweight. I probably, by all means, should be a bantamweight fighter.
Well, Sherdog has you as a bantamweight, Arlene. You were shocked when I told you that.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I guess to show how much I Google myself.
You should sort that out. And you said you do not. Just so you guys are aware, she does not like the photo.
No, I've actually already just messaged him. So I mean, there's been a few times throughout my career. I think we're on number 3 now, for the opportunities for me to go over to the UFC. And obviously go over there as a bantamweight fighter.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about this, right? And obviously the UFC, you're signed with Bellator, and Bellator's great, and we all appreciate that there's other options in the market. But I think it wouldn't be too crazy to say the UFC is the biggest promotion in the world, probably by far. They don't. The featherweight division over there is pretty thin pickings. Like,
I think
they're struggling to even find another fight for Amanda at featherweight.
Well, I don't think they're. I mean, I know that there's 4 girls. I mean, and Amanda's beaten 2.
And half of them are blown up bantamweights anyway. They just take that because it's I think Dana said recently. He said after the Amanda, he said, look, we'll keep that division around as long as she wants to keep fighting. It's basically built around Amanda at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, originally before that it was built around Chris.
Yes.
Cyborg, so.
So, I suppose working in with your nutrition side of things, is bantamweight something you can do without having to make your life absolutely miserable? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I walk around, even when I'm, at featherweight, like, there's still weight on me to lose. And I, like I said, last fight camp was the first time that I was working with Geordie, and I was eating so much food, and I was cutting the weight easy. Like, it was the first camp that I've actually had abs in. So there's a few photos that I've got, and I was like, I keep trying to like reshare them because I'm like, there's abs there. Yeah, nice. Like in the 12 years that I've been fighting, but it was just crazy for me because like when he sent me my food plan, I remember looking at it and there was like 3 breakfasts. Like by 11 a.m. I'd already eaten 3 meals, and then I was like, that's crazy. So I've always had the and he said it like like weightlifting, bodybuilders, not bodybuilder, what do you call them? Body sculpting. Diets where low calorie, and it's hard because you can't train as a professional MMA fighter and maintain. And it was like there was a lot of fight camps there where you literally you've eaten breakfast. I'm already thinking about lunch, and I'm like hungry all day, and you've got like no energy. You're moody. So this last fight camp, even fight week, I was eating so much food, like good food. When I protein, carbs, a lot of carbs. I was surprised at how much carbs I was eating. But the weight came off. I think fight weigh-in morning, I had 1 kilo to cut.
Yeah, it's nothing.
But
now, weight cutting, I think, is more difficult for females than it is guys. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. Well, there's a lot of factors to take into consideration too, like depending on what time of the month it is. It's a big thing at the moment. Like it was last weekend that poor girl fainted on the scales. I've had some horrible weight cuts and dangerous weight cuts too. Like I remember there was, which fight was that? There was a fight there that I took my daughter with me. Might have even been my debut fight. I think she's been to a few of them now, but I remember coming out of the sauna. She actually came in for a couple of minutes with me just to sit in there with me. But there was one stage where she actually had to dress me. I was laying on the bathroom floors at wherever this sauna was, and she had to like get the towel and dry me off and actually dress me because I physically couldn't stand up. So horrible weight cuts where
also, I feel like procedures are becoming better. Like the way I cut weight with the fighters now, we had 6 guys fight a couple of weekends ago. The way they made weight was substantially easier than if I had those same guys 5 years ago. Like, do you feel like you've refined
for sure, process? Definitely. Like, I mean, I never used to water load back in the day.
If you don't water load, it's a night.
But I mean, I'm telling you, the world title fight, but I fought the boxing fights in 2013. I took that fight on a week's notice, and I was 8 kilos over the weight limit at that time. But I mean, I was like, I'm getting an opportunity to fight for 2 world titles. I stopped eating and drinking that day. So a week out of that fight, I hadn't eaten or drunk. But knowing what I know now, you start water loading and you cut sodium out of your diet. Or it's just a matter of being educated. And I think a lot of the old school trainers back in the day, when you see boxers in their sweatsuits running, it's and it's good that social medias and there's platform there that more and more people can get educated and because it is a very dangerous thing, when you're not cutting weight properly.
I don't like my guys to cut huge amounts of weight, but then on the other hand, you go, do I want him to go in there and fight a guy that's probably 10 kilos bigger than him? Like it's dangerous both ways. I don't want them so drawn out that they easily get knocked out because their brain's dry the next day. But I put guys into fights where they didn't cut nearly any weight and they were 10 kilos outweighed.
Well, I know that and this is a good thing with Bellator, they've got protocols now where the next day after weigh-in and even just before the fight, you've got to only be a percentage so they don't let you cut too much weight. So
California are pretty big on that. The California Commission with Andy Foster. He's
they're very strict. They've even got the neurological side of things too. They make you do all these tests,
which is good.
If
they catch you too high out of your division, they say next time you fight for us, you're actually a division above.
They are super strict. But I don't walk. Like I said, I'm fight at featherweight. I'm never any more than 5 kilos heavier than that weight division. But one day I'd love to, I even sort of after the my last fight had my manager approach Bellator about potentially starting a bantamweight division because I know
so they don't have it. I wasn't aware of that.
No,
so they don't have a bantam.
No, so they've got the 125 and 145, and I know that there's a couple of girls in the 125 division that would easily go up to 135. And before, obviously, if I had won the world title, I know that Arlene McFarlane, she was the champion at that time too. She's since lost her title. But, I was going to sort of pitch for the 2 champions at 125, 145, meet in the middle because she's been pretty active with wanting to try and start a bantamweight division as well. But,
so did the UFC kind of clear out and take a lot of the bantamweights? Is that what happened? And then Bellator went, look, there's not enough girls to fight over? Is that kind of...
Yeah, well, because... At one stage, there was only 135. Bantamweight was the only division, so everyone was just going to that. And then they started the 125 division, or 115 division. They had 115, 135. Right. Bellator had 145 and 125. And now the UFC have 125 as well because Valentina stepped up. And
the 4 divisions now, the 4 females. Because they got 115,
featherweight,
125, 135, 145.
145,
Which is what's her name's division.
Yeah. Amanda's. So, but in saying that, Bellator weren't interested in a 135 division, so I'll just, lucky for me, I am a light at the lighter end, and sometimes a little bit shorter than most of the girls at 145, but I make up for that with strength. I am strong for a girl, so
I agree.
Even like my last fight, we were sort of cyborgs known to walk around at 79 kilos naturally. I walk around at no more than sort of 71, 72 kilos at my, and that's a lot bigger, but that just, even at the weigh-in, I just remember looking at her and it sort of gave me more confidence because I just remember looking at how she didn't look scary at all, and obviously it's because she just had one hell of a weight cut. But then, the next night she just looked like she'd put on 10 kilos. She was huge, and even I didn't see it, but my partner said to me, because he's obviously in my corner too, but him, Tyson and Coach Wink from Jackson's all looked at each other when she hopped in the cage and were just like, what the hell?
The same girl?
Yeah, so I'm glad I didn't see it because probably would have freaked me out, whereas I was in I actually looked at her and I didn't even notice the size difference or anything. I was in such a good headspace. Didn't even have an inkling of fear or I was just ready to fight. So big props to my sports psychologist because we did some good work for a good 6-7 months leading up to that fight. And my mental space, and that's probably the biggest thing I'm taking from that fight, because I take that to my next fight along with being a better fighter, but more well-rounded fighter. And I think I'm going to be...
You've kind of armoured yourself up mentally after that. Is there a certain... I think any time you test yourself against someone really good, even as a jiu-jitsu competitor, the first time you're going against someone who's also known as being very good, you can build them up and be like, geez, this guy's going to give me a hard time. But then after the match, you go, wait a sec, I belong here as well.
100%.
Did you have that kind of moment of going... And once you realise you belong, then you can even go to the next step of going, I'm the one they should be worried about. And then before you know it, your confidence actually becomes an asset. Yeah.
No, I had that moment sort of a few years ago. I always sort of sat there and didn't think I belonged. I always, more so probably even working with my sports psychologist too, the way I sort of approach things. So, throughout my career, the biggest achievements that I've had. So, for example, when I won my 2 boxing world titles, instead of being super proud of myself that I become a 2-time world boxing champion, I sort of flipped it and was just like, oh, well, the girl that I fought was sort of at the end of a career. It was just lucky that I, beat her. Or, same thing with my Bellator debut. I just felt like I didn't set it that I earned, the achievements.
But were you doing that as a self-protection thing, where it's if you kind of don't put too much on yourself, you can always just lean back on, I just don't really belong, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard to be confident because you feel like you can fall from a greater height.
Yeah, that's true, maybe. But now I'm sort of looking at don't get me wrong, when I was that whole fight week after weigh-in, even when she stepped into the cage, I'm thinking it's going to hit me, I'm going to shit myself. There's going to be a moment, because she's a scary woman, and there's a lot of females that have turned down fights. Megan wouldn't fight her in the UFC, and then she went on to fight Amanda. But
which might be more brutal.
So she's a scary woman. But I actually felt, and it's interesting, even because you never forget your mindset in fights. Even with my Bellator fights, I've got a record for a 22-second finish, a KO finish, which has set the record for the fastest female finish in Bellator history. But if people actually knew what was going on in my head out in the change room, I did not want to be there that night. The last thing I wanted to do was fight. I didn't want to fight. I had my headspace was all over the place, and not because of any reason. I actually had a really good fight camp that turned into being a really good trip. That was that was probably the second most at that time, the second most biggest amount of money I'd sort of made in fighting and stuff. So it was a bit of a turning point in my career in that sense. But the fight itself didn't.
Is it a claustrophobic feeling? In my head, I kind of I haven't fought mixed martial arts, but I've had a couple of grappling matches where they were bigger matches, and I feel sometimes it can be a claustrophobic feeling when you're I'm not going to let myself get out of this, so I'm stuck here. You know that feeling like you're going to get on a roller coaster and you know you can't back out? You're like strapped in and you go, well, fuck it, I can't get out. Like, I feel like that's that feeling. Is that what it was backstage? It was like, I'm going through with this, but it's a feeling of I'm fucking trapped here.
Yeah, it is 100% how it was. Yeah. And actually, to be honest, a lot of my fights kind of have felt like that up until the last one. So it's just changing that mentality. So instead of like having it, not that I was a fear of it, because I've never been like scared of actually fighting.
No, I think scared is the right word, is it?
Yeah, it's underperforming or like, not living up to expectations.
Or other people letting
down your coaches. You put all this work in and you've got a team behind you. But so that was one of the biggest things I sort of worked on with in the lead up to the Chris Cyborg fight. So actually enjoyed it, even when I dropped the first round, which was kind of a game plan. Not a game plan to drop a round. The game plan was originally the game plan going into it was a 5-round fight. We all know that she fades towards the end of as the rounds go on. So it's sort of like weather the storm. I didn't mean to cop a beating. But like in saying that too, she took me down and she was on top of me and I got back up and so there was a lot of positives to take from that. It was over, and then the round had finished. Tyson was in front of me talking. Coach Wink was talking, and sometimes I get a little bit lost in the corner, and I always say to like whoever's there with me, if I'm looking through you, I'm looking through you. I'm not listening to anything. But I was actually literally looking at Tyson and I was talking. I was talking to him, and fitness wise, like we'd worked super hard. I wasn't tired or anything. Whereas I knew she was tired because she was breathing so heavy.
Those big cuts are exhausting. Being so big and working hard, there has to be a negative to it. It can't just be all positive.
So I was ready, like in that second round, to start getting to work. Like started establishing my jab, checking a few of those kicks, because we knew that if the rounds went on, you can't. Because she kicked me a few times in the legs. But in saying that, sometimes I think it's better to cop it in the leg, because if you check it and it's on your shin,
How did you feel like, people talk about her being such a devastating puncher? You'd fought pro boxing. Would you say she hits the hardest for somebody you fought?
Oh, to be honest, it wasn't. So there was a punch where she hit me with a left hook and it clipped the top part of my nose. So it wasn't that it was a hard punch. It just got the side of my nose and then that's when obviously that's the most damage I'd actually copped like in a fight. I usually have never had a bleeding nose.
Did you find yourself when you got cracked with that thinking about it, or just going, 100%. I need to get that back?
No, I actually, and this is one of the things that I'm taking into the, there's only so much mental preparation you could do, like in mental, like, going through things in a fight and stuff, envisioning things. I'd never actually prepared for that.
And what do they say? Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah. So, I remember, I've got a really good poker face, and I've ended up being good friends with a lot of my opponents and stuff, and we always have a joke, and I'll tell them at points, you got me with that one, and they're like, really? Because, I'll have a poker face and not even show it.
I think that's a good skill, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have a poker face in this time, because I actually stood back, and there's a photo of it. I stood back and I showed fear, and instantly I saw her. And this is the thing, because it does the same thing to me. As soon as I see someone hurt, it just like invincible, then I just want to kill. So and as soon as I did that, I went like, oh fuck. And good. And then that's when I backed onto the cage and she just unleashed, because she saw it. And I'm kicking myself because I circled, but I should have just kept circling. It's a big cage. Like, just until in hindsight, I'm thinking I probably would have just needed a few more seconds just to breathe and get my head around it. And then before I knew it, we were up against the cage and she took me down again, and I'm on my back and I'm choking on my blood and she's, elbows and then I gave up my back. She was
pretty relentless,
and I gave up my back, and then, she choked me out. So,
look, I think for if we're being brutally honest, for how little jiu-jitsu you've done, you've gone a long way in your career, only losing a couple of submissions, really. I think small amounts of work in your grappling is going to give you big payoffs at the other end.
Yeah.
That's why it's
even what we were doing here yesterday, like it's just, being like I'm sitting there, I'm kicking myself, like, she was on top of me, we get to your side and this and that. But it's also a different story when you throw in the factors of I had, like, my nose bled for hours after that fight. And I mean bled.
You start to aspirate blood. You start to, and that's the worrying thing, is that you start breathing in your lungs.
Yeah, like I was literally choking on my blood because it was running down the back of my throat. I'm trying to sit up and then she's pushing me and she's punchy. Like it's
no good.
It's not.
It's not a good position.
Yeah.
No, not whatsoever.
So, like I've spent a lot of time. I had 2 weeks in quarantine to think about it too, and it is what it is. And I took my last loss to Julia in 2017 really, really bad. That fight was December 2nd, coming into the Christmas period. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take some time off, spend time with the family, go out, have a few drinks and socialise with my friends and just be somewhat normal or whatever. But I was just in a really bad headspace. I took that loss because it was a split decision loss too, so close. And then it's quite a controversial thing too, because if you speak to a lot of people, even now I'll have people messaging saying you won that fight, it doesn't make it any easier to swallow. But my mindset in dealing with that was such a negative thing. Like I even went out and I was on a bit of a a hate thing towards Julia, her, like blaming her. She had nothing to do with it. Out of all the girls, to be honest, in the division, Julia is someone that I'd actually probably I think I'd get along with really well. So, and I've put a few posts up since then, because I feel like I've matured as a person. In years to come, I'd love to be cage side with her, watching fights and having a cocktail or something like that. So. I've taken this loss a lot better, more positively. Yeah, it sucks losing.
So is it kind of like, you were on that roller coaster, you experienced it, and you jumped off and you went, oh, I didn't die. I can do this again. Is that kind of like what that feeling was? It was like, I want her again, or I want another good opponent. Was it kind of that feeling?
Yeah, well, it was. I think for me, the biggest thing was because it was my second shot at the Bellator world title, and I was so I just thought I was winning it. I knew that I could stand there with her and I was confident. So yeah, it was a bit disappointing. I felt like I had to go back to the drawing board and sort of reassess. But I'll just keep doing.
You two are just you're different size athletes. You're a weight division apart, realistically. As far as I'm concerned, she's a weight division above all the other girls. She's really a 155er, not a 45er.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to see what happens. Because there is the 155 division for the PFL. So, she's won all of the world championships across the 145 division. She was the Strikeforce champ, the Invicta champ, UFC champ, Bellator champ. So, props to her. She's left a legacy.
Oh yeah. So now, going back to what I was talking about before, is the UFC something that could happen for you? I know you're very loyal with Bellator, and I know, but obviously it's an even bigger exposure. See, the hard thing with Bellator in, say, Australia is that it can be difficult for us to watch fights, for instance.
Well, that's it. And I guess too, the UFC, even if you're not into mixed martial arts, everyone knows what the UFC is.
You said some young kid came up to you the other day and said, are you a UFC fighter?
Yeah, I couldn't be bothered to correct him saying it's not UFC. And a lot of people say, do you do UFC? And
UFC is the sport to most people.
Yeah, that's it. So,
is that a bucket list? Or I don't want to get involved in, obviously you've got management, you've got things, but is that something,
to be honest,
you'd like to do, or you're happy if you just, where you're at?
Yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm on my 4th contract with Bellator now, but to be honest, the other career goals that I've got with jumping back in the boxing ring and becoming a world champion boxer again, align with being with Bellator too, because the UFC don't allow that. So that's sort of one of the biggest things that sort of keep me there too. But like I said to you before, the ops team and everyone, I'm looked after with them and respected as an athlete. But yeah, as much as I'd like to have a bigger branding here in Australia and have a bigger platform and stuff and be a bit more of a household name, I guess I just have to use other avenues sort of like to build myself up in that sense. But in saying that, like what I'm doing now outside of the sport, my platform is big enough already. Like I'm pursuing the things that I want to pursue. So there's no reason for me to need a bigger platform really. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, what's the point of having hundreds of thousands of followers, but like it's not really going to change what I'm doing anyway. Like I'm still following the things that I need. So I'm good where I'm at.
Yeah, cool. So what's the, we've been talking for a while. I don't want to hold you up all day. To kind of like, work our way out here. What's the future? Like, you said you still got plenty of fights in you. Yeah. Obviously, do you see yourself doing martial arts after fighting? Because a lot of fighters, because it is such a job for them, they finish fighting, they blow up, they become 15, 20 kilos above their weight division. I'm not saying, I hope that doesn't happen to you, Arlene. You know what I'm saying? You see that a lot. Like, do you see yourself being in this industry, indefinitely, or what's the future hold?
I'll definitely have my foot in the door some way, but I've also set life like goals for after fighting, just to keep me sort of active in that too. Like there's other things outside of fighting that I want to achieve. Like I want to go on a triathlon and like just, always have something to strive for. Like I was leaving my jiu-jitsu run for, because I always sort of thought that the time that I needed to spend in this sport to, eventually, get graded and climb the ranks. I was like, I don't really have the time for it now. So it was an excuse that I made while doing MMA, but so I've sort of jumped into that this year. But I'd definitely like to sort of pursue more time on the mats. Like, and eventually one day, it doesn't matter what age I'll be, like get my black belt and there's heaps of other little goals. Like I do have heaps of bucket lists, because I feel like for someone like me who's spent the last 12 years at a competitive level striving for goals and wanting to achieve them, I can't just end my career. Like I think from the mental aspect, and I think that's where a lot of athletes go wrong too, is that you're at a high level and then all of a sudden your career's ended and they've got nothing. Like,
you see people get a bit lost.
And
I think the other thing seems to be there's a lot of positivity around being a professional athlete, especially a professional fighter. Like people, for some reason, people love being around fighters. Obviously, you've experienced these people. If they can say, "Oh, that's my friend Arlene, she's a cage fighter," they're going to use that as a boast. And then when you finish, I imagine there's "Oh, that's been my identity for a long time now."
Yeah.
Like, does that affect it?
See, for me, I've never really taken that on. I've always been a mum first, and I'm very if anything, kind of forget. Like my partner's the one that always sort of even says to my kids, because they quite often will not even look at me in that sense. Because to me, I'm their mum. So,
which I think is a good thing.
100%. Like I don't want my kids to think I'm anything more than their mum. Obviously, for the reason he says that though is just to recognition of what I've achieved, sort of thing. But yeah, I'm still very much and. I don't put myself up on a pedestal in any sense. I still think I'm that person 12 years ago. Yeah. And I kind of forget that sometimes that I am a big of a deal. So,
and also, you might not realise that there's probably a lot of young athletes that look to you as a role model. There's probably especially a lot of young girls that are looking at this as an option for them. And, it's yourself and others that they're looking to going, these are the people I want to model myself on.
Well, I've taken this whole journey originally started with me pursuing my dreams, but to want to be a good role model for my kids, to show them I was at 26, just because I'm here doesn't mean that I can stop. I started working towards my dreams, and it's grown into something that's huge right now. So it's teaching them to follow their dreams and pursue things and work hard towards them. This hasn't been an easy run at all, but it started off with just them, but I've realised how big of a deal it is now. I've got so many people on Instagram and social media, and people that I coach, people that I mentor, people that I'm friends with, but I inspire heaps of people, a lot of females and a lot of guys too. But just didn't realise it was going to be this big. So
what's the how many more years of fighting? Have you set yourself a goal, an age? Have you set a number of fights? What do you think?
Well, I had to reassess things. So the plan was that I was winning the world title last year, and then I was going to defend it and fight all this year. So I'll still do that. Obviously, just not as being the champion, but this year is going to be a really busy year. I want to have a Bellator fight. Hopefully in the next sort of 6 to 7 weeks, come back. You'll see me back in the boxing ring. here in Australia. I haven't had a fight in Australia for quite some years, so it'll be really cool to have like a good following here and just fight in front of like a home crowd and probably get back on the Australian boxing scene. Just remind people that I'm still here.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so get back in the Bellator cage. So I want to have 2 Bellator fights this year. Hopefully a few boxing fights. Reassess again over Christmas. But yeah, still have a few more fights next year. But my partner and I want to have a baby. Yeah. So yeah, that'll see me out for a bit. But the plan is 6 months after that, get back in the Bellator cage, because that's just a go. Yeah, I want to just get there, and then whatever happens after that happens after that. But awesome. In saying that, like my record's at 13-8, and I kind of set a little goal amongst a few other goals to get to 20-8 before I retire. Yep. So.
Okay.
We'll see.
7 more. There you go.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe some UFC fights, but maybe not.
Yeah, we'll see. But I try not to this is the thing. Even in life, you can have like a massive plan of how things go, but you've got to be pretty adaptable. Like things don't always go the way you plan. So I've got how I want things to sort of go, but if not, I'll just go with the flow.
I think you're ahead of 90% of other people out there that don't even know what they're doing tomorrow. So that sounds like a pretty good plan.
Yeah. So.
Well, look, I always feel like we could keep talking forever, but we'll wrap it up. You probably have you got extra? What are you doing this? Have you got training this?
Is that the time?
We've been talking for nearly 2 hours.
Oh wow! Yeah, I do. I've got mentoring at 3 o'clock. Holy crap!
Okay, well we better wrap this up. Do you want to shout out your sponsors or anything like that? Is there people that you need to?
Yes, I always freak out when I get asked this because I'm like, oh, please don't forget someone.
Don't you dare forget anyone.
I've got Muscle Bros who have been long-term sponsors now. They've been on board for years. AH Class Fencing. I've got Freedom Chef that came on board last fight camp. Southland Real Estate, they came on board last fight camp as well. B & Bougie, they also came on board. I've got 3 Kings Finance. Thank you to my recovery team. So Optimal Spine, Paragon Physio, Pinnacle Health. I've got my nutrition team, so obviously Jordan, Fight Dietitian, and Athletes Nutrition, obviously all my coaches and training partners. I don't think I've forgotten anybody.
Sounds like a decent team you got behind you.
Yeah. I've got a few, like obviously other companies. I've got BF925 who have actually just done a collaboration with a t-shirt, so my next fight shirt that I'll be walking out in. So the profit from those sale of those shirts are actually going to a scholarship that I'm starting. So I've got the Angerfist Athletic Scholarship and Angerfist Academic Scholarship.
Cool.
So there's something that I'll be sort of launching later on in the year after this fight. So the t-shirt collaboration. So 100% of the profits will go towards funding those 2 things.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. So just obviously leaving a bit of a legacy too. So I'd love to obviously get some sponsors behind those 2 scholarships and set up fighters in their career, up and coming fighters, and sort of put them on the right path from early days. And the academic ones just for more people who have just gone through hardship and just want to change in their life. Like I said, at 26 I had a turn of events, and having opportunity like that, academic one like a scholarship would have been awesome.
Well, I take my hat off to you. You're juggling more things than I'm juggling. So thanks for coming on today. Thanks for having a chat.
No worries.
Thanks for being awesome. And you got to go to the next appointment.
Good talk all day. Thank you.
Good job.